It's a pleasure to present this body of work in Milan and to be in dialogue with the Arte Povera movement and specifically artists who I've been impacted and influenced by, but also to be influenced by the space, to take inspiration by this architecture and the natural elements above, but also this breakage and this beautiful contrast between clean white walls and these rough elements, which I think also manifests itself in my work. So I couldn't be happier by how it's all come together. There are many different materials on show, but I think the core overlapping links between them are these motifs of the burn, the hole, the singe, the tear, the crack. All of these motifs of destruction and of ruination are repeated throughout the works, and I think manifest themselves as a challenge to the viewer to consider our relationship with nature and the sort of antagonism that we definitely manifest. There's this sort of paradoxical relationship that we have between domination of nature and dependence of nature, and I think this is something that I hope to engage with. There's also a deep appreciation and respect for some of the Italian artists that I've been inspired by, artists such as Alberto Burri or Giuseppe Uncini, Giuseppe Pennone as well. These are artists that have been touch points for me in my work and have definitely sort of inspired me to push my materials, to push my ideas, and to push my relationship to my work much further. There's this spilling and this writhing and this organic quality to the materials. I'm interested in the way in which I'm able to bring them back into the foreground of our perception. Things that we find lying on the street, lying in the gutter, discarded once we've used them. And there's a way in which these mimic the forms of intestines and cerebral matter. And specifically these works, I think, speak to this way in which my work fluctuates between intention and intuition and bounces back and forth between, as an artist who's primarily interested in process. As we've limited the works to 6 pieces on show here, it's a little bit difficult for me to choose one that I'm maybe the most excited about, but I wanted to highlight this piece. It's a work titled La Peur de Chagrin. It's my first exhibited work on paper since graduating, and it's an idea I've had in my head for around 7 years and finally feel like it's in a form that I thought was worth expressing to the public. After noticing how sandpaper takes the impression of a block of wood when it's wrapped around it, I decided to experiment with making prints with the material. These experiments resulted in this work, which is essentially an act of frottage combined with woodblock carving. After placing a sheet of sandpaper on top of a carving, I erode the top layer of the sandpaper until only the paper remains. It was only after experimenting with many different kinds of sandpaper that I was able to find one that allowed me to constantly lift the image from the woodblock carving and create a small addition. As my practice is primarily concerned with the materials I utilize, image making is not something I have developed much, and as such, it took much deliberating to settle on an image which I felt went hand in hand with the process of eroding, connected to the material itself, sand on paper, and could function as part of the body of work that I was pursuing for this exhibition. The work suggests a dried and cracked riverbed, a scab or a skin, and ties in strongly to what I see as the ecological concerns of this exhibition. I settled on the title, drawn from Honoré de Balzac's book of the same name, and which tells of a man gifted with a magic skin which grants him any wish he desires. However, as many of these tales of unbridled desire go and seem to end perilously, the skin shrinks every time he makes a wish and also draws power from him, ultimately leaving him devastated. And I wanted to highlight how things perish without care, how abrasive and destructive greed, desire, ambition, and hubris are on our environment. As with this shrinking skin in the tail, too much pressure on the sandpaper, and these little tears are created. So it really speaks to this fragile balance between taking and leaving, and I think really calls for us as viewers to think about our role as nurturers and as givers.